I'm Remo, this is Tech Flicks and Grill, and today we're talking Pixel 2 XL. Alright, the Pixel 2 XL has been out for about 6 months right now, so why are we even talking about it since it came out so long ago? The reason is, this arguably is still the best Android phone that you can have in your pocket. Is it perfect? No phone in my experience has been perfect. And there are a few cons that maybe are something to look at. But in my opinion, the reason I still keep this phone in my pocket is because those pros outweigh the cons. So let's talk a little bit about the build quality, display, and the design of this phone. I came to this phone from a Google Pixel. And then before that, I had a Nexus 6P, so I've been in Google's camp for a while. I went from a 6-inch screen to a 5-inch screen, and I was so excited to come back to a 6-inch screen because if you remember in 2017 it was like the year of shrinking bezels, and I didn't have that. With the Google Pixel it was 2 giant bezels, one at the top, one at the bottom, iPhone style, and it was just not very tech and forward thinking, which is not how I like to think of myself. So I went out and picked up the Pixel 2 XL mainly because I really like the screen to body ratio. Look at these tiny bezels and in comparison to this 6-inch screen. So right off the bat, it's like, yes, this just feels right. Less body, more screen. So I love that. Now, going into the design of this phone, it kind of has that iconic Google Pixel kind of, I guess, window at the top of the phone, if you will, countered with this aluminum body. Now, it is a hard anodized aluminum, but it almost feels kind of like plasticky. It is like a good grip, but it doesn't have that strong, like, heavy metal and glass feel that you get when you pick up an iPhone or a Galaxy. So I'm not really sure how to explain it. Those people just make their phones feel more premium, I guess, than when you pick up the Pixel 2 XL. It's a little bit lighter, and so you just don't get that immediate kind of satisfying heft. Maybe that's a personal preference of mine, but that's just kind of what I've noticed. Beyond that, let's talk a little bit about the display. So that was a lot of controversy when this phone first came out, that it was an OLED display, but it really just had a lot of glaring issues such as white shifting or burn-in or not enough vibrancy. Honestly, as a day-to-day user, I don't really experience those things. I think the screen is beautiful, actually. Whenever I'm watching YouTube or whenever I'm watching Netflix, I don't really notice any big issues. If I were nitpicking, I could definitely see where people have their issues, but I just think after you've held the phone for a couple days, it's ultimately just really functional. Straight up, I'll tell you, it's not as good as the OLED on the iPhone 10 or the OLEDs that Samsung puts into their phones and the Galaxies or the Notes. Like, those screens are just beautiful, but they have other cons on those phones, which is why I still lean towards the Pixel 2 XL. And the last thing I forgot to mention before is it has stereo front-facing speakers. Now, this is awesome when you're playing music or when you're playing YouTube videos. It's just that kind of, you get to hear it really, really well, and the design is just perfectly suited for that. It's not coming at the top or the bottom or a little speaker here. It's actually right in your face where you would hope speakers would be. One of the things I did want to mention, if we're talking about how this phone kind of holds up, since I did get it on day one, there is like a hairline fracture that I've had on the aluminum back here. I don't know if I dropped it funny or something, but it's definitely not one of those things I can buff out or anything like that. It's pretty much here to stay. I'm not really sure. I've never seen metal crack like that. It almost looks like it cracked on the side and is just coming through. Obviously you would expect that with something like glass, but I'm not really sure what I did, so maybe that speaks a little bit to the build quality. Just something to consider. I've also had little like specks of dust get stuck in the speaker grills or where the metal meets the glass, and it's just kind of frustrating, and I just don't think those things tend to happen if you're comparing it to a Galaxy S9 or a iPhone that you might pick up. Just food for thought there. All right, so now let's talk about my favorite feature of this phone, which is the camera. Now, you've probably heard about the Pixel 2 XL's camera because it's arguably the best camera that you can get on a mainstream flagship phone. Now, when this phone first came out, one of the things that they were really touting was the fact that it received a DxOMark score of 98. Now, it's just an outlet that reviews cameras, So you can kind of take it or leave it. I always think it's best to kind of use your own experience to make those judgments. But if you want some kind of hard numbers and a score to go off of, which a lot of people do, that phone got a 98 from DxOMark. Now, since then, the Galaxy S9 Plus, only the Plus version, has gotten a score of 99, so it outbeat it by 1 point. Since that, recently, the Huawei P20 Pro has gotten a score of 109. Now, I haven't had a chance to test either of those phones. From what I heard about the Galaxy S9 Plus is the difference is marginal, and a lot of people actually prefer the Pixel over that phone. But you realize this is just one lens that they have on the back of this phone, as opposed to the Galaxy S9 Plus that has 2 lenses and the Huawei P20 Pro has 3 lenses. Google is able to do amazing photography work with just one lens, and they do that by using the amazing software that they can put into the phone. So specifically, portrait mode photos look amazing. When my wife Mariam and I recently took a trip to Aspen, we use the portrait mode all the time when we're taking pictures of ourselves, when we're taking pictures of food, and every time we take a picture, after it does this processing that it just does Google magic to the photo, and it comes out looking amazing, whether it's low light, bright conditions, what have you. It just puts this kind of magic flair on the photo, and it looks just great. And I consider myself to be more of a novice when it comes to photography, so I like the fact that with the Pixel I can just take any subject and just point and shoot at it. I don't have to mess with, I don't even know, all these little terms that are out there like aperture and exposure, all of those sorts of things. I don't really know. I like to be able to just point out what I'm looking at, take a picture, and then I'm always wowed by the results. Now, if we're talking about the camera of the Pixel, we should also mention that you get unlimited storage with Google Photos. So we're getting into software a little bit here, but that in conjunction with the camera, the fact that you can take 4K videos, you can take these amazing photos, and it all gets uploaded to the cloud using just free storage. If you're a Pixel owner, you're entitled to this unlimited storage. And if you've ever used the Google Photos service, it's fantastic because it categorizes all of your photos by people, by place, by object. And it actually will even use a Google Assistant to show you like, hey, I took this photo of yours and I added this filter to it. Doesn't it look even more awesome? And I'll be like, yes, Google, you're right. That looks amazing. Or it will make collages of me and Mariam. Or it will make videos even. It will splice together videos that we've taken, add some photos, and it just does great things. Now, in terms of videos, this phone also takes amazing videos. Now, it shoots at 4K, 30 frames per second. That's not quite as high as the iPhone 60 frames per second, but you can shoot it and you can store it all in the cloud using that Google Photos function I was mentioning. So you have unlimited 4K video with this amazing, image stabilization that you never have to worry about running out of space or anything like that, which is like the constant complaint that Mariam might have with her iPhone, that she's always running out of space. Anytime she even takes, a 4-minute video, we got to dump everything, upload it, and then clear it out so she can maybe use her camera again. It's just not something that you have to worry about with the Pixel or being in the Google Pixel family. So one of the big advantages of having a Pixel is the fact that you get the latest and greatest software and security updates directly from Google as soon as they come out. You don't have to worry about carrier approvals or manufacturer approvals from other brands of Android phones because it's all handled by Google directly and gets pushed straight to your phone. So I do really like that, especially in the age of having security breaches and all the different crazy stuff out there. I take comfort in knowing that I have the latest security and the latest software. Now, this is running Android 8.0 Oreo, which is pretty much very similar to last year's software, but it's just a little bit more refined. Android overall is a very mature software at this point. So every time they do make an update, it's more about making it better as opposed to making a generational leap forward. Now, I'm never opposed to them doing that, but you can take comfort in knowing that if they do that, this phone is going to get it. Now, in terms of performance, this phone has the Snapdragon 835 by Qualcomm. That's the latest and greatest that was available when this phone came out in October of last year. However, in recent months, they've put out the Snapdragon 845. What that basically means is that this phone isn't now running the latest and greatest chip. That's kind of one of the downsides of having this phone, to be perfectly honest with you, because the 835 chip came out in early 2017 and was included in the Galaxy S8 that came out 6 months prior to this phone. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to have the phone that has the latest and greatest chip? Because that answer is always going to be whatever the Galaxy is. But those phones are really weighed down by bloatware. You don't have two messaging apps, two calendar apps, two web browsers, because you have just fresh, clean Android with no additional bloatware on top. And that actually boosts your performance. So you can almost expect that you're going to have similar performance, be able to get to your apps a little bit faster, switch between apps with not having too much hiccups, and expect similar performance from that later chip because you're not being weighed down by all of those additional software features that they try to cram into those phones. I will say that from time to time, this phone does get hung up. For the most part, it is really fluid and really smooth and really quick getting me to where I want to go. But every now and then it will just kind of hang up, like just freeze for 20 seconds. It tends to be when I open up Google Maps and I'm ready to go to a different destination. I'll just have to kind of sit there and wait for it to catch up with me before I can put in my destination. Minor nitpick, but it is something that I've noticed for a phone that is supposed to be kind of the epitome of how good Android can run. Now, some of that performance slowdown, can it be a symptom of having the phone for about 6 months? Maybe, probably, I'm not really sure. But the bottom line is it doesn't perform 100% all the time, and that's something that you should know. All right, so the last thing we should talk about is the battery life. This is one of the things that I would consider to be best about this phone. Right off the bat, when I got it, I noticed that it was different because I could go throughout the whole day. I would get home and I would have about 40% left of battery life, which is huge for me because I consider myself to be a fairly heavy user. With that said, I don't really charge it every night like I used to with every other phone. Now I kind of just charge as needed because not only does it hold its battery extremely well, it charges very, very fast. So if I'm at my desk, I can actually plug in my phone. Say I'm at like 30%, I can plug it in for 15 minutes and get back up to 70 or 80%. So that's huge. You know, that allows me to not have to worry about, okay, did I have enough time to charge before I leave? As long as I'm somewhat conscious of where my battery stands, I'm confident that I can plug it in, get a quick charge, and be on my way. Or even in the car, if I plug it in there, it even charges quickly there if I'm using like a 10 amp charger. Now, one of the knocks that I do have to give this phone is it does not have wireless charging, which is all the rage these days. Now, that never really seemed like a big deal to me because I never really saw what the big deal was about plugging it in, especially when you have USB-C, you know, it's not much to fiddle with. But just seeing everybody else having wireless chargers on an iPhone 8 or iPhone 10 or a Galaxy S9, and having those wireless chargers just be more and more prevalent, it would be nice to be able to just throw it on there and know that I can get a charge that way. So it's not necessarily a feature that I feel like I'm missing. It's just one of those things that I feel like I should have. But overall, I would say it's held up extremely well over the last 6 months. I haven't really had any notice of charges lasting less time or it draining faster, any of those sorts of things. And that might also be attributed to Android 8.1 and having that latest software because they've done a lot to optimize your battery just in the background. So you take some comfort in the fact that Google's got your back there too. All right, so 6 months later with the Pixel 2 XL, the real question is, does it hold up after all this time? And the answer to that question is, for me, yes, but it's really because I love Google software and I love the camera. I mean, it checks a lot of boxes off: performance, battery life, just having the latest and greatest software at all times. This phone also has a 2-year warranty on it, which most phones don't out there on the market. But it's not perfect. It doesn't have the most great build quality as the other phones. It doesn't have wireless charging. It doesn't have a lot of those bells and whistles, nor the latest processor. But, you know, if you ask me, am I happy with the purchase that I made 6 months ago? The answer is totally yes. If I were in the market for a new phone today, I might check out the Galaxy S9. I mean, there's a lot of cool things that they're doing there with the variable aperture, and it has a faster processor, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have as easy to use of a camera, and it has all of that Samsung bloatware that I just don't want on a phone, and I'm not sure I ever will. So they really have to step it up if they ever want to pull me out of the Pixel ecosystem. Definitely give the Pixel 2 XL a look if you're in the market for a phone right now. That pretty much does it for this video, guys. This is Tech Flicks and Grill. It's a new channel. This is our first video. Give us a like on this video if you really like it, and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more tech videos, and we'll also be dabbling in some food stuff to come. Stay tuned and let us know in the comments below if you like this video and if you still think the Pixel 2 XL is the Android phone to have. Later.